the Registrar General, Bangladesh Supreme Court, the Director, National Legal Aid Services Organization, members of the Supreme Court Registry, members of the print and electronic media, good evening. I begin, ladies and gentlemen, by paying homage to the martyrs of the 1971 Liberation War, the vanguards of our national existence, to the heroes of the language movement of 1952, the struggle for dignity and identity gave voice to our collective soul, and to the fallen of the July-August 2024 revolution, whose sacrifice rekindled the nation's moral imagination and hardened our resolve to restore equity and justice. Their legacies guide our mission and give depth to our aspirations. It is both a privilege and a solemn responsibility for me to address this distinguished audience on the occasion of Legal Aid Day, a day that emphasizes our solid commitment to the ideal that justice must be accessible to all, regardless of economic condition or social circumstance. Although the official observance took place 2 weeks ago, the values it carries remain ever relevant and vital. Legal Aid Day is not a symbolic gesture marked by calendar dates. It is a reflection of a moral duty that lies at the heart of our constitutional promise that every person, however poor or powerless, shall stand equal before the law. Bangladesh has a proud history rooted in the constitutional ethos of justice, liberty, and equality. But no constitutional pledge, however noble, can have meaning if it fails to reach those most in need. Legal aid, therefore, is not an act of benevolence, rather it is an essential component of the rule of law. Through the National Legal Aid Services Organization, the Supreme Court Legal Aid Committee, and numerous district legal aid committees, thousands have been assisted in asserting their rights and securing their remedies. Yet I must admit that our present efforts, while commendable, fall short of our greater aspiration to ensure that no one is denied justice merely because they lack means or personal capacity. Esteemed guests, in my assessment of legal aid eligibility, we have long relied upon the means test as the standard tool for evaluating a person's financial ability to bear litigation costs. However, time and again, we have seen accused persons technically deemed above the income threshold, yet in reality, being bereft of the ability to mount a meaningful defense. They were, for all practical purposes, voiceless in the courtroom. In response to this profound gap, soon after assuming office, I initiated a reform measure of critical importance, that is, the inclusion of a capacity test alongside the traditional means test. This initiative seeks to evaluate not only whether a person can pay for legal services, but whether they can truly defend themselves. The message, therefore, is access to justice must be measured not only by entry into the courtroom, but by the ability to participate meaningfully in the process of justice. This is only one component of a broader vision that I have sought to implement since assuming office. Ladies and gentlemen, on 21st of September 2024, I announced a comprehensive judicial reform roadmap founded on capacity building, administrative autonomy, and procedural efficiency. Under this initiative, 2 landmark developments have already taken place. The Supreme Court Judicial Appointment Council and the Supreme Judicial Council have been made operational as autonomous constitutional bodies under the authority of the Supreme Court. These bodies now hold exclusive power to recruit and remove judges of the apex court, free from any executive or legislative interference. This is a vital step towards insulating the judiciary from external influence and reinforcing the independence that is indispensable to the credibility of our justice delivery regime. At the same time, we have submitted a detailed proposal to the government for the creation of a Supreme Court Secretariat. Such a body is not a privilege, it is a constitutional necessity. An independent judiciary must also be institutionally autonomous, capable of managing its own administrative, financial, and human resources without dependence on the executive. This proposal, over the last several months, has gained broad support from the government. Within the judiciary itself, unsurprisingly, and from our development partners, and I remain hopeful that its implementation is imminent. Distinguished participants, complementing these structural changes, I have issued 12-point directives aimed at eliminating corruption from judicial processes, and I've taken measures that include stricter oversight mechanisms and that have paved the way for opening grievance redress platforms. As part of this broader initiative, the Supreme Court has established 2 dedicated helpline services, enabling justice seekers to submit complaints. 2 dedicated helpline services, enabling justice seekers to submit complaints, seek guidance, and benefit from timely responses to their concerns. The turnaround time average now is anywhere between 24 to 48 hours. These helplines have met with overwhelming response and success, affirming the people's readiness to engage with a justice system that is transparent, responsive, and citizen-focused. And might I add, the past several months, this particular measure, setting up helplines, has happily been replicated at certain divisional and district judiciaries. It is in that context that, and encouraged by this success, I am pleased to take this initiative to the next phase. Today, before this August gathering, ladies and gentlemen, I am formally announcing the launch of a dedicated helpline for every district judiciary across the country. I am also announcing, therefore, that each district will be equipped with a designated mobile number assigned in a symmetric and accessible pattern, accompanied by a smartphone device to ensure effective service delivery. To operationalize this, the Supreme Court of Bangladesh is simultaneously issuing a comprehensive circular, even as I speak now, detailing the functionalities, standard operating procedures, and oversight modalities of the whole helpline service. This initiative seeks to ensure that no citizen, regardless of their location or circumstance, feels abandoned or unheard when seeking justice. Ladies and gentlemen, in this overall holistic vision of transformation and reform and people-centric justice, legal aid occupies a place of paramount importance. It is not peripheral, it is central to our mission of transformation. Recognizing this, I have undertaken the restructuring of the Supreme Court Legal Aid Committee. This body, under its new composition, has been entrusted with greater responsibilities and a renewed sense of purpose. I expect the committee not only to administer aid, but to act as a catalyst for change through active engagement with particularly the bar and civil society. I believe its mandate must be expanded to cover wider domains, including legal literacy campaigns, digital outreach, and support for vulnerable groups such as women, children, the elderly, and the climate affected. To fulfill these objectives, one must acknowledge a practical reality, and that is, legal aid cannot be sustained without adequate resources. It is therefore imperative that appropriate and predictable budgetary allocations be made to ensure the uninterrupted functioning of legal aid services nationwide. We cannot ask our legal aid committees to perform miracles on shoestring budgets. Investment in legal aid is therefore not an expenditure. It is an investment in the rule of law and in the social fabric of justice. Ladies and gentlemen, the transformative journey we have embarked upon during the past many months has neither been easy nor without its challenges. But I'm deeply, deeply inspired by the response, in particular, of the district judiciaries and magistracies across the country to my reform roadmap. I have personally traveled through all 7 divisions of Bangladesh outside of the capital to convey the urgency of reform and to call upon judges, magistrates, and members of the legal profession to claim ownership and take charge of this shared mission. Their responses have been nothing short of remarkable. The Judicial Service Association in particular has embraced the reform agenda with vigor and dedication. Furthermore, local bar associations have enthusiastically come on board by organizing seminars, convening public dialogues, and initiating grassroots consultations to align their work with my roadmap. In continuation of this momentum and in ensuring the sustainability of the reform agenda and our attainments in the mid to long run, I'm pleased to share that the Supreme Court of Bangladesh will host a national plenary